Houston, flight is go.
Mila, let's go. SPM, safety contact.
From Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's The Dorking Out Show with Christopher Allen Smith and Sonia Mansfield.
Welcome to episode 73 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories and culture that we love. That means movies and TV, books and podcasts, and everywhere else we find stories that interest us. This is the Lady Bird Joins the Justice League edition. With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, Christopher Allen Smith.
And hey there, hi.
Hello, hi.
And with me today is my co-host, professional writer and author of the Sonia Show blog, a real-time update of the top storytellers felled by the sexual harassment tsunami. Do you still love Steven Spielberg? You better hit refresh on the Sonia Show blog before you answer. Sonia Mansfield.
I would be nonstop writing. I wouldn't even have time to record this podcast.
It's at the
point that was true.
That's right. It's at the point now when I don't want to read news.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to find out the next show that's like crossed off the list or in pop culture jail or something. Jeffrey Tambor. Transparent, which I haven't seen an episode of, but everybody tells me it's fantastic, is leaving the show that got him an Emmy, isn't he?
I haven't even read that, so you're giving me breaking news. Friend of the podcast, Margot, on her Best Neighbors podcast, said that it's like a perv advent calendar. And like every day you just open it up to discover who the new perv is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Anyway.
Why don't you tell them what we're talking about today that isn't about sexual harassment?
Well, some. In this week's episode, we talk about Justice League, the culmination of Warner Brothers' attempt to replicate the success of Marvel with Marvel Cinematic Universe, has DC Cinematic Universe, which includes the critically battered Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, and the critically lauded Wonder Woman, turn their creaky ship around. Look at those odds and tell me what your hopes is. Anyway, then we dork out about movies and TV shows that we haven't been talking about lately because we've been doing an awful lot of Star Trek coverage lately. So now we're kind of veering back to just what we're dorking out about in TVs and movies and other stories. Now that the sexual harassment claims have laid waste to the top stars and directors, we're forced to follow the careers of background extras and second assistant directors the way we once lauded the likes of Matthew Weiner.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Tambor, Kevin Spacey, Michael Bay, of course. Somehow, Michael Bay is still untouched by this. I don't understand it. Anyway, also coming up in topic 2, we might give our thoughts about Rian Johnson's new Star Wars trilogy and the Lord of the Rings television show. It has been a while since we've dorked out about random entertainment news, but we are making up for it in topic 2. I should have just said topic 2, we're dorking out about stuff. Anyway, here's the rest of the show.
Why use less words when you could use more?
That is the real name of the show. So now we come to the review of Justice League. What should be a towering achievement in the golden age of comic book movies is, well, we shall see. This is the first coming together of Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman on the big screen, and maybe the last son of Krypton, ever! First time ever! It's supposed to be the Gone with the Gwen of comic book movies. It's supposed to be DC Entertainment's answer to Marvel Cinematic Universe's 2012 billion-dollar smash, The Avengers. But instead of having second-rate comic book heroes like Thor or Iron Man or Hawkeye or Black Widow, This one has Batman and Wonder Woman and two-time Academy Award winner Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa. Sonia.
Mimosa?
That's right, Jason Momoa.
Have you had a mimosa before we started recording?
He's the tastiest Aquaman ever. Anyway, Sonia, let's just cut to it.
Aquaman gets me drunk.
Does Justice League... Now, you've seen Suicide Squad and you've seen Wonder Woman, but you were not a watcher of these DC movie.
I have not seen any of the Superman movies because they look like super bummers. So I skipped those.
What did you think of Justice League?
Okay. So this movie is kind of messy and tonally it's kind of all over the place. Like, it's not a cohesive movie at all. Will you agree with me on that?
Oh,
it's
yes.
It's kind of a mess. But I still kind of liked it.
Oh, snap. Interesting.
Like, the plot is a bunch of, like, whatever, involving, like, a bunch of, like, doomsday MacGuffins. It means nothing to me. But I really like the kind of, like, ensemble, like, let's assemble the group together stuff. And I like the interaction between the heroes, which is what I love about the Avengers movies too. Like, I love the let's get the group together, and I like the interaction between the heroes, and I love it when the heroes are actually like being heroic and saving people. And this movie has that. I'm less interested when it's just like a bunch of like CGI fighting. Like, and I do think it's kind of confusing and messy, and I think it's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like the movie. Like, I didn't think it was terrible. I have to admit, I don't like to go into movies thinking like this is gonna suck. Like,
right.
But I try to go in with managed expectations. And I mean, maybe the bar was really low for me because I really didn't like Suicide Squad at all. But I actually really liked it.
Okay.
Like, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Like, it wasn't, it's not a really good movie, but I still kind of had a good time.
Yeah. No,
So I'm super curious to hear what you think.
I'm kind of with you. I went in with very low expectations. This is a very strange movie. Since Warner Brothers has watched Marvel do with their comic book properties what Warner Brothers could have been doing since the 90s if they had thought about it. Because, what happened in the 90s is Marvel Comics was going through a lot of hard times, went bankrupt or whatever, and they did a thing where they took their top characters and sold them off to a bunch of different studios. And so when they started making movies under the Marvel banner in the 2000s, they had like their B team and C team and D team. Warner Brothers never did any of that. All of DC's properties have always been owned by Warner Brothers. And it's very strange to see this movie. All of their movies are very strange. It's almost as though you can see Warner Brothers executives freaking out, seeing how much money Marvel has been making. And, Marvel's been at it for 10 years, building up various characters and various strings of movies. And Warner Brothers is just like, I don't care. We're just going to go for it. We're going to put all of our characters together.
They're absolutely, like, they're rushing it.
And it has, Man of Steel, which I really liked, was kind of a misshapen, strange movie. Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice was a really dark for what it was. If people, it's a fascinating movie because it's had a very strange critical reaction. A lot of DC fans really like it. A lot of critics really don't like it. I think it would have been, Zack Snyder, who directed Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman is kind of a divisive figure when it comes to people talking about directors these days for some reason. I've never really had a problem with him, but I mean, he made a rated R for adults Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman movie. That's what it is. And Warner Brothers made him cut it down, made him shape it into some sort of movie that they could market alongside a lot of Marvel movies. And this movie is kind of the culmination of the culmination of a lot of what Warner Brothers has done wrong, has misstepped. Zack Snyder had to leave 3/4 of the way through production.
He had a death in the family, and he kind of stepped down, and Josh Whedon took over, and he punched up the script as well. And I think that's why when I say like it's not a cohesive movie, those are two very different directors
and very different tones and very different attitudes. This is one of the most schizophrenic movies I've seen in a long time. And it is almost as though you can see in this, from all descriptions from behind the scenes, Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder. What happened was Zack Snyder was supposed to come back for reshoots, which is kind of a norm for big movies like this. And Joss Whedon was going to kind of write out new scenes, write out new things. And then Zack Snyder was going to direct a round of reshoots to kind of bring the movie home. But he was not able to do that, and Joss Whedon actually went in and directed anyway. So it's not as though these two creative forces were kind of one guy got fired and the other guy stepped in. They were kind of working together.
Right.
But on screen, it's almost as though those two creative voices just got into a huge fist fight in the editing room, and somebody accidentally hit send, and the movie got released in the middle of all that turmoil. And it's got some of the worst CGI, some of the weirdest turns, some of the most clunky storytelling of any of these modern comic book movies. In a way, it's kind of like a bad 90s comic book movie. It's just...
I guess that's true, yeah.
It's just weird. But here is the thing, and here's where I come around to... I'm pleasantly surprised to hear you, is it's a huge mess that I enjoyed being a part of.
Yeah.
It was almost as though you're watching another bad comic book movies with comic book characters that you like. So there are moments where you're hanging out with Wonder Woman and Batman and the Flash, and they're kind of talking about superheroic things and talking about threats and stuff. And then there's a scene where they get into a fight or something that's almost like a different movie that sucks.
Yes.
And then it comes back to them, and they're at the Batcave, and they're talking, and they're doing all this stuff, and they're making jokes about being superheroes. And Ezra Miller. I liked the characters. I actually liked them. Right.
And I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to say something about Ezra Miller as the Flash. He's so good. He's so enjoyable as the Flash. Like, when he's on screen, I was like, oh, yay. Like, I like spending time with him. I would watch his movie if they just wanted to do a Flash movie. Like, I really enjoyed him. I thought he was light, and he was funny, and he was kind of this, like, neurotic oddball that doesn't really know how to be a superhero. Yes. That I really enjoyed. And I thought, like, he's such, like, that chemistry of, like, kind of like, I'm a weirdo who doesn't really know how to be a superhero, and then, like, with Batman, who's just been doing it like a really long time, and Wonder Woman, who's been doing it a really long time too. Like, I really enjoyed him. I thought he was really good.
Yeah. It's funny. A lot of people coming out of Batman versus Superman last year came out applauding Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, saying the best thing about that movie is not Batman and Superman, it's Wonder Woman. This movie is almost like the Flash plays that part, Like, yeah, it's fun to see Wonder Woman. It's fun to see Batman. But there's an energy and a spark and a fun.
Well, I still think
Yeah.
Gal Gadot is so good as Wonder Woman. Like, I just think she's so good in the movie Wonder Woman. And I think she's really good in this, too. And I think she is, like, the heart of this movie.
Right.
You know, she's the one that brings any kind of warmth to it, really. Yeah. And I still like her. I think she is shot a little differently in this movie. And I have seen some rumblings about that, you know, on Twitter and stuff, where there's like kind of, you know, upskirt shots and cleavage shots and things like that. They're a little different than, say, Wonder Woman. But I just think she's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Not to, you know, wonderful Wonder Woman, but like she's so good.
She is. No, I mean, it's good. And I really like, it's funny. I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. I really like this Batman. I really like this Wonder Woman. I really like this Flash. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, I like, but I still don't care about Aquaman. Nothing is ever going to get me to care about Aquaman. It's never happening.
The thing about Aquaman, okay, so I used to watch Entourage. Did you watch Entourage?
Yes. Yeah.
I bailed like after like the second season maybe.
Right.
But there was like a whole storyline where they were going to do like Vincent Chase was going to be Aquaman.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
and so every time there's like when I heard that Aquaman was going to be in this movie, that's like all I could think about basically. Right. I thought he was fun. I mean, he is a little kind of like bro superhero for me, I guess. A little too like, you know, booyah, yeah, woo, you know, for me.
Yeah.
But Jason Momoa is like full on, like he's a movie star, and like they could make an Aquaman movie, and I'm sure it would make like a lot of money because he's a movie star.
Well,
I didn't love him like I loved the Flash, but that might be like a taste factor, you know. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like the Flash was and they super love Aquaman. So
exactly.
And then there's Cyborg, who I totally just forgot about until just now.
Well, I was just going to say, there's Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg, which is a character I was expecting not to give two hoots about. Like, this is, for me, has been one of the most boring, dull, obvious, simple comic book heroes. I just haven't liked him, don't care about him. I haven't heard anything to change my mind. But Ray Fisher's performance as Victor Stone, I actually kind of liked, and he seemed to be infusing it with some interesting background or interesting subtexts that they never really get into. So I liked it. I liked him. What were you going to say?
I was just saying he's one of those superheroes that I think if you remember when the Justice League preview came out, I was like, okay, so there's Batman and Wonder Woman and Flash and Aquaman, and then there's a guy who's like a cyborg or something. Who's that?
Right.
And both and you're like, that's Cyborg.
That's right. Well, that's why
I don't know who that is.
That's why I've never liked him, because he's kind of like a fifth grader's idea of like their first comic book, their first attempt to make a comic book character.
Right.
Their first attempt to, I'm gonna make a robot man. Oh, he's half robot and half man, and what are you gonna call him? Cyborg. If this character had been made in the 1930s, it would have been, what are you gonna call him? Robot.
Yeah, it's Robot Man.
That's right. That's the thing. That's the new hip term, robot. Anyway,
should we get into spoilers a little bit?
Well,
should we?
A little bit. I do want to talk about something, because you hit on something about, I'm sure they're going to make a cyborg. I'm sure I'm going to make that. There have been more than a few rumblings that Warner Brothers is paying close attention to the performance of Justice League before they decide what they're going to do next. There still is a Aquaman movie that's shooting and coming out next year. But beyond that, the only thing that's really securely locked down is Wonder Woman 2. And we usually don't talk about money on this show just because who cares, other than as a indicator of whether or not we're going to get more stories like this. And Batman vs. Superman came out last year and made $166 million in its first weekend. Suicide Squad came out last August and made $133 million in its first weekend. Justice League, as we record this, the Sunday estimates are in, it has made $96 million, which is more than a third drop from Batman versus Superman, which was not even all the superheroes on screen for the first time.
Yeah. So
this is
I also saw that it's like a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I was like, this isn't like a 39% movie to me. Like, but at the same time, like, I could understand why someone wouldn't like it.
Right.
Because it is a goddamn mess. But it's, you know, it's, I feel like almost like its heart's in the right place.
Right.
Like, I feel like you watch this movie and you could see like, oh, they're really trying.
Right.
Like they're trying to like make this a good movie. Like they took their notes from Wonder Woman and they're really like they punched it up. They, put in some jokes. They lightened it up. They give us more Wonder Woman.
Right.
Like I felt like they're trying. Like you could see like they're trying.
Right.
I feel like that. I feel weird saying that 96 million is like a bad box office, but because that's a lot of money.
Right.
But I feel like that's more of a reflection of how much people didn't like Batman v Superman.
I think you're right. No,
Then Justice League's quality. Like they go to see Batman v Superman and they're like, well, that sucked. And then a lot of the marketing for Justice League, it kind of looks like more of the same, and they're probably like pass.
Yeah, you're definitely right, which is interesting because this is one of the things I said last year, and this has been one of the kind of the raging, bitter internet debates, which usually I don't pay attention to, but with a lot of DC fans, it's like, yeah, we get it. We get that critics don't like Batman versus Superman, but it's not a 29. It's not a, once you get below 30, you're into Adam Sandler territory. And the movie is much better than that. Like,
it's much better than Jack and Jill.
I totally agree that it's not a good movie, and I completely agree that it took a bold creative gamble, and it went for it full force, and that's not the kind of comic book movie I think a lot of critics enjoy, so they were pretty hard on it. So it's interesting that you're having the same, you're getting the same feeling from this one, which is, yeah, it's not great, but Jesus, you don't need to kick it around this much. I feel like this
I get it. Like, it would be really easy for me to sit here and just crap all over this movie. Like, there's definite things to go to town on.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it more than that. It doesn't deserve that.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the thing that's so interesting about it is there are parts of it that are really good and fun. This is almost like a Star Wars prequel, in that there are moments that are just like, this is exactly why I came to a movie like this. I'm really enjoying this moment. And then there are other moments that are so bad and so awful, and there's some CGI effects in this movie that are so... It's baffling how bad... I mean, this is the year that we saw War for the Planet of the Apes, which had armies of apes that looked perfect.
Like real apes. You would never know that those weren't real apes.
No uncanny valleys, nothing. They looked, it was like, wow, there are special effects, CGI effects are getting to the point now where you really, even looking at something, knowing it's fake, it looks perfectly real. Like it was shot with real actors on a set. This is like bad 90s video game cutscenes.
Right.
It's spectacular.
Yeah.
And the bad guy in this, and here's
Oh, yeah. I'm like, we've been talking for like 20 minutes or something, and
Right.
we haven't even talked about the villain. Who's he again?
Steppenwolf or something?
Yeah. That's his name.
AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. The which is funny because this bad guy has the exact same motivations, and this is basically the plot.
Well, he has the same motivations of all these comic book movies have the same.
Well, they do. That's true. But this one, a lot of people, when you ask them, what's the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, they will say the second Thor movie. Thor: The Dark World had the most forgettable villain. Who cares? Holy smokes. It's just awful. And when people talk about the villain problem in the Marvel movies, Thor: The Dark World is at the top of the list. That character is as charismatic as Tyler Durden compared to this one. And what's worse is essentially Justice League has the plot of Thor: The Dark World, which is I'm a big bad guy. I'm going to get this MacGuffin that lets me turn Earth into my home planet. There's a billion.
Oh no, he's trying to get the box so that he can open up the shaft of light to the sky.
That's right.
Boring. So, like, it's the same thing.
That's right. That's right. I think was it you that was talking in our Suicide Squad review about the shaft of light to the sky?
Yes, they all do this. They all are like, oh no, he's got the thing that's going to open up the shaft of light and turn this world into their world.
Into that and this and that. So now we have it, shaft of light to the sky. If there's a shaft of light to the sky, no good. The movie is automatically no good. But,
right.
Yeah. So this is, holy smokes, it's a mess. If you're one of these people that really wants to see a comic book movie and has dreamed your whole life about seeing Batman and Wonder Woman and The Flash and blah, 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 all working together, okay, watch it, check it out, you'll have fun, but just know going in, this is... I almost wonder if this is what it would have been like to watch Batman and Robin if there had been good moments in Batman and Robin.
I don't think this movie deserves that comparison.
It doesn't. No movie does deserve that comparison. The point is there are moments that are...
We should do the spoiler sound because there's a couple of things we should talk about.
What do you want to spoil of this movie, which comes to us pretty pre-spoiled?
What do you think of Superman? I didn't know if that was a spoiler or not.
Yeah, I think it kind of is, but not really. But
because he's not in the marketing, so I figured that's kind of a spoiler. As someone who hasn't seen the other Superman movies, but has seen clips and like Man of Steel's on TV or something. Mm-hmm. I was pretty unimpressed with.
Oh, really?
With Henry Cavill in the other movies.
Okay.
But I actually kind of liked him in this movie. Like he seemed a little like maybe he's more comfortable in the role now, or he just seemed warmer.
Right.
I guess.
Right. Well, he's allowed to be Superman. What's funny is Man of Steel is kind of like the Batman Begins of Superman movies, which is you only really see him as Superman in like the last 15 minutes.
Right.
And then it's over. Implying the next movie is when you're really going to get to see him be, Truth, Justice, the American Way, the Blue Boy Scout, all of that stuff. Then Batman versus Superman is taken over by Batman, who is the most bitter, hardened, harsh Batman we've seen on screen.
Why is he so upset?
He's just a
why
dark
is Batman so upset?
Because
did something bad happen to him?
Oh, I see where you're going. Well, Sonia, I hate to tell you this. His parents were murdered.
What? This is the first I'm hearing of it.
But not the first you've seen of it, because Batman versus Superman opens with the Waynes getting killed again. Anyway, point is, And so in Batman versus Superman, he's not the superhero that everybody loves. There's a lot of like protesters about him being an alien coming to Earth and, you know, just throwing his weight around. So there's not like, oh, Superman saved us and Superman, we love Superman. But this movie is predicated, and I'm not the first to say this, on Batman realizing I'm not the superhero that needs to save the world. Superman gives everyone hope. Superman gives everyone love. Superman gives, you know, and this movie begins with a kind of a little podcast of a couple of kids and Superman, which is just a very sweet moment. Well, but that's the first time. That's the first time in these three movies you see kind of a Christopher Reeve, Clark Kent.
That's why
Superman. It's weird.
It was so weird for me because I was like, this is not the same type of Superman that I was seeing in the clips that I've seen, the scenes that I've seen. I was like, that Superman looks like a super bummer. Pass.
Yeah.
And that Superman, the one I just saw in Justice League, seemed much warmer.
Yeah.
Like, did some heroic things, saved people, like, seemed to have a sense of humor.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, I feel so bad that I was kind of crapping all over him, but you're telling me he wasn't really like that in the other movies.
He wasn't, but it wasn't his fault. Henry Cavill is fantastic. I really like him. He is a really good Superman. But what they were asking him to do, especially in Batman versus Superman, is just kind of mope around and be alienated from the world and be this object of hatred and suspicion. And
well, I really like the there's a scene where Ben Affleck is talking to Alfred and he says, like, you know, that maybe Superman was an alien, but at least he really lived in the world. Like, he had a job and a family and a woman he loves and all these things, and how Batman's always been kind of on the outside looking in.
Exactly.
And I thought that was really good. And I like the scenes with Superman and Lois Lane because I love Amy Adams. She's always awesome. And, you know, Diane Lane and his mom. I thought their scenes were very sweet.
Right.
And I did think it's at the end, like the idea of like the end for Lois Lane, like her big thing, like her happy ending is she gets to write that awful story.
Oh my God.
There's like this weird voiceover over the end where like she's writing the story.
Oh,
and it's
man,
like I was like,
awful.
This would never run in a newspaper. It is a terrible story.
Well, let me ask you something, though.
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
Super random thing. So J.K. Simmons is in this movie as Commissioner Gordon, I assume. He's Commissioner Gordon.
Yep.
So I haven't seen the other ones. So when he shows up, I was like, why is J. Jonah Jameson in this? I was like, what? I was like, he's at the newspaper, right? I was like, why are they giving the newspaper editor these things? And I was super confused. And I was like, oh, wait, that's a whole other cinematic universe.
How awesome would it be if they still use J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson when they eventually get to that in the Spider-Man movies? God, that would be so great.
It was just so funny. Like, I literally was confused.
Right.
For, like, it took me a little while. Oh.
Right.
Never mind.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
I'm sure it was Amy Adams' voice doing that narration at the end. But I got to tell you, it really did not sound like her. Did it sound like her to you?
I thought it was her.
Okay. Yeah. There was like...
I just kept thinking, like, that's a terrible story. I thought Lois Lane was supposed to be a really good writer.
Yeah. It was... It's funny because every time Lois Lane... I think it was like this in Superman Returns. Every time you hear Lois Lane's actual copy that she writes in these movies, that's at best a mediocre opinion piece. There's no, right. It's a bunch of assertions without facts. There's no quotes.
Yeah. Hey, dummy, you're burying the lead.
That's right.
Like, I would totally skip over like the first 5 paragraphs of your story to get to the part where I was like, just tell me what happened.
No wonder newspapers are dying.
This is why print is dead.
That's right. Egon was right.
So what did you think about the after credits sequence?
You know what it is?
Did it make you roll your eyes?
No! It made me think, God damn it, that's a movie I want to see! I want to see Lex Luthor and all his bad guy friends fight Superman and all his good guy friends. That's the movie! Like, I think it's like, I had fun and I had whatever, and then it's like, holy smokes, that's the movie I desperately want to see. I was pretty irritated.
I thought it was a little groan-inducing for me. Like, we should start a league of our own.
Yeah.
I was like, shut up.
Yeah, no, I get that.
A little too, like, we should start a legion.
Right.
Legion of Doom.
That's right. You know what? At that point, this movie was so not good that I was kind of like, you know what? At this point, screw it. It's like.
By the way, you liked it.
I did.
But you keep saying you don't like it, but you liked it.
I did like it, but it was almost like, you know what it is? It's like if you think of every DC Universe movie as like an HBO show, like they're trying to be The Sopranos, or they're trying to be Westworld, or they're trying to be Game of Thrones, but then they get to a certain point and it's just like, screw it, we're Curb Your Enthusiasm. Let's just be funny and just go. We're going to stop trying and we're just going to do whatever the hell we want and have fun, and I don't care anymore. You know, that's... I think the DC Universe is at that level where it's like, let's stop trying to be so goddamn respectable and just have fun. Who cares? So, after all of that, what would you give Batman vs. Superman? What would you give Justice League on a scale of 1 to 10? You thought this question was gone from our reviews, but it's not.
I really did.
I forgot, and now it's back.
I feel like a B- is too high. So it's really like a C+, but I did like the movie. So
which would be what in terms of numbers? 1 to 10, Sonia. It is the greatest.
It's like a 5. It's a 5.
Yes. Keeping our tradition of hitting our numerical. Actually, you know what? That's why we need to stop. What we need to do is I will just ask you, or you will ask me, and that will be the number that we both give it. I would maybe
That's
give
the
it
way to do it.
I would maybe give it a 5.5, but you know, it's a mess. Well, that isn't the thing that's interesting. Is a lot of 5s is they're 5s because they're mediocre the whole way through. This has got a lot of 7, 8, 9 moments, and it's also got a lot of 1, 2, 3 moments.
Right.
And they're smashed together
so
to average
mathematically,
right. It's a 5, but
it's
a mess.
Hey, want more Dorking Out?
Yep.
You can visit our website at dorkingoutshow.com.
You can.
And you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Do you listen to us on iTunes?
Yep.
It's cool.
It's cool.
We won't tell anyone.
Nope.
Please take a few minutes out of your busy day of pretending to work while you watch cat videos to give us a review on iTunes.
Cat videos!
For some reason, iTunes really cares about reviews, and it helps us attract more listeners, and you want us to have more listeners and be popular and cool, don't you?
Yep.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
And now, on with the show.
Yeah.
Topic 2. What are we dorking out about this week? A lot of things. A lot of things. I'm going to jump right in. Smith, have you ever seen Logan's Run?
I have, I think, back in the 70s. And I believe, friend of the show, Jeff Bond, it is one of his favorite movies of all time. I hear a lot of people in the generation of sci-fi fans older than me that love this movie like crazy. I haven't seen it in any way that I can remember. I must have been like 5, and I saw it.
I had never seen it and decided to watch it. It is, in case people don't know what it is, it's set in a really groovy future, man, but you have to die when you're 30. It is one of those movies that's kind of perfect for a reboot.
They've been trying.
Like, this is a movie you could remake. Like, it's got a good idea, and the original's kind of cheesy, and I think that it could be done again and be really exciting. It was a fun movie. I was very entertained.
Cool. So you may have guessed by now, this is just a grab bag of stuff that we've been liking and seeing the last couple of weeks that we're just throwing into this thing. So, Logan's Run. What prompted you to watch Logan's Run?
It was 100% just I hadn't seen it, and it popped up on Turner Classic Movies, and I recorded it.
All right. Cool.
I just do that. I go through the Turner Classic Movies, like what's coming up, and I just on Hulu. I have Hulu Live now because I'm so fancy, and just started recording a bunch of movies, and one of them was Logan's Run, and I got it in my head the other night that I was going to watch it, and I'm glad I did.
Let me get this straight. Logan's Run is on Turner Classic Movies now?
Yeah.
That's how old? Oh, my God. Yeah.
It's 76.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So.
All right, now you pick something.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. There are a couple things I'm going to talk about. A couple movies. Murder on the Orient Express. Only the Brave. I think that's the title. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, there's two huge things that we have got to talk about that we have not talked about on this show, and we probably should tease this in the intro. Star Wars. Rian Johnson has been announced as the creative force behind a new non-Skywalker trilogy of movies coming out. Sonia Mansfield.
Yes.
You haven't seen, I assume, Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
No, I have not.
Directed and written by Rian Johnson.
I have not.
What are your opinions? But before all that, Disney is so much in love with him.
Yeah, they clearly think it's a really great movie, and they're hitching their wagon to him.
They are.
That makes me really excited to see. I was already excited to see the movie, and now I'm kind of like really excited, like really, really excited.
Yeah, because here's the other thing.
And I will totally watch this.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's Star Wars. We are
Duh.
Stereotypical fanboys for this franchise. Anything they make.
Fangirls.
Yes, thank you. Any movie they make, it's funny.
Or fan people.
No, fanboys are girls. Fan people is just, it doesn't roll off the tongue. Anyway, fangirl is great. Fanboy, awesome. Fan person, no. Anyway, sorry.
And that's all the time we have.
That's all the time we have after Chris has ranted about syntax. It doesn't offend me as the egalitarian. It offends me as the writer.
So I haven't read like a ton about the Star Wars series that he's proposing. So tell me what it is.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Nothing has come out except it's going to examine. It's going to be a non-Skywalker story, and B, it's going to explore a region of the Star Wars universe, and I think by this they meant galaxy, a region of the Star Wars universe that has never been touched on before.
I think this is an awesome idea, and it's one of the things that we've talked about a lot when we talk about Star Trek and how it is a vehicle for all kinds of different storytelling.
Right.
And I think Star Wars is that too. So I'm stoked that they're doing something that is not connected to the Skywalkers.
So let me ask you this. I am too, because I gotta admit, the more I think about the Star Wars series, the main Skywalker series, just the weirder. There's a jokey subreddit on Reddit called "The Empire Did Nothing Wrong," and it is kind of like, it started out as kind of like a Star Wars version of like the 9/11 truthers or whatever.
Oh, geez.
Where they're making the rebellion look like a bunch of terrorists and all this, and all those memes about Luke Skywalker being a religious terrorist who destroys the Death Star came from there. Anyway, point is, the more I think about it, the Skywalkers are just a murderous bunch.
Princess Leia isn't.
She's not, but Luke nearly murdered his father. Ben Solo definitely murdered his father. Darth Vader is a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we still caring about this Skywalker clan? There's nothing good left. I think in the
Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are nice.
Unrelated. not blood, not the Skywalker family by blood. Poor, shiftless, good Samaritan people on the sidelines. Anyway, so I am very excited. Point is, I'm very excited for Rian Johnson to get the hell away from the Skywalkers. But then the question is, do you want to see the Force in Rian Johnson's new trilogy?
Oh, Well, does it involve Jedis?
That's the thing. Is if you take away Jedis,
it doesn't have to.
That's true. But if you
it's a big universe.
It is a big universe. But if you take away Jedis and you take away the Force, all you have are spaceships and a bunch of alien planets. Oh my God. This just occurred to me. Rian Johnson could be trying to turn Star Wars into Star Trek.
Maybe.
It's just starships zipping around to a bunch of weird alien worlds with people.
But they won't have to wear the uniform.
What was that?
They won't have to wear the uniform.
They won't have the uniform, but it's going to be a hell of a lot closer to Star Trek than it will be to what we know now.
We don't know that yet.
That's true.
So should we talk about the other big news too?
We should. Yes, the other big news is Amazon apparently wearing its desperation for a Game of Thrones style kit on its sleeve, or should I say in its checkbook, has paid $250 million, is my understanding, to the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien. George R.R. Tolkien? Anyway, point is, to make and committed to making several seasons of a Lord of the Ring, of Middle-earth set TV show with a possible spin-off. Some people have said this will be like a prequel to the Lord of the Rings, where they just tell a bunch of other stories in Middle-earth, which could be cool, or it could be God knows what. Sonia.
Yes.
After the Hobbit trilogy, give me on a scale of 1 to 10 your level of excitement for the Lord of the Rings TV show.
Let me just tell you what my initial reaction was. My initial reaction was, no! But then on the inside went, I'll totally watch this.
That's right. I will definitely watch this.
I will watch it. Am I excited about it? I don't know if I'm excited about it, but I will totally watch it. Because for the same thing we just talked about with Star Wars, it is a big world, the Lord of the Rings world. There are probably a lot of other stories to tell that don't involve rings. And I'm sure. Why not? Let's see what they got. Show me what you got.
That's right. I got to tell you, I am very underwhelmed by the possibility of this show. I really don't. When I think about it.
Well, it's because The Hobbit was so bad.
Well, it was.
It was so bad. So I understand when people are like, but I do love The Lord of the Rings so much that I know I'm going to watch it.
True. But, when I think about it, it's do I really care about dwarves and exploring more dwarf stuff? No. Do I really care about elves? Not really. What was the cool thing that I really liked about Lord of the Rings? Okay, the hobbits were kind of charming, and the humans were kind of, all right, there's a bunch of kings and knights, and all right, got it. It was the ring.
You want a whole TV series based on, the orcs.
Or something. That's the thing. I don't care about orcs.
It's all orcs and trees.
That's right. I don't really care about any of the stuff. It was the fun idea of having a hobbit in charge of the most destructive force known to the world. I like that. I like the tension of a nice little hobbit.
What if they did young Gandalf? Young Gandalf adventures.
They probably will. I don't know. It would almost be like the thing that's great about The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, it's almost like telling the story of World War II from the point of view of a grocery store owner that for some reason becomes in charge of the Manhattan Project. That's an interesting story at the center of this huge war, and it's the decisive thing. It's cool, but I don't need to see the rest of it. I don't need to see. I don't care about how.
But you're gonna watch it.
I am, but I am.
So the verdict is, we're totally gonna watch it.
Yeah, the verdict is we're gonna watch it. The verdict is, and I've told people this a million times before, so I'm telling it to myself now. You never know what people are gonna do. You never know how these things are gonna turn out. So don't judge them. But when they're first announced, let's just see what happens. That being said, this is like in the 50s or the 60s on my list of exciting projects I'm waiting to see. So,
okay, we're
yeah.
running out of time, so I want to do another. I want to share another pick.
Yes, I want to. I was just going to ask you, what's your next thing?
I went and saw Lady Bird, which is written and directed by Greta Gerwig, who did. She's done like, oh gosh, sorry. I'm trying to think of it right off the top of my head, and I'm failing.
She did a movie or a television show.
She did Frances Ha and Mistress America.
All right.
Which I actually haven't seen those movies, but now I think I'm going to go back and watch them because I like this one so much. So, and you're going to like this movie too. She grew up in Sacramento. And this movie is set in like 2002 in Sacramento, and it's about like a high school senior who has kind of this prickly, bickery relationship with her mother. It's during her senior year of high school. Like her mom wants her to go to like college nearby. She wants to go to college on the East Coast because, and I quote, Sacramento is the Midwest of California. And I think
it all checks out so far.
Yes, it is. It stars, I'm just going to massacre her name, which is my way. Sarona, the woman from Brooklyn.
Oh, my God. Just say her name,
No,
Sonia.
I can't pronounce it.
All right.
Is Saronis Rowan?
Okay, cool. Point it. All right. So she's
Anyway, it's a really, really good movie. It's a really smart, like poignant, well acted, well written, thoughtful, detailed movie that I just feel like we don't see a lot of those anymore.
Right. I've heard a lot of good things about this movie.
It's a really good movie.
From other people that I trust.
Not you. And it's funny that I saw this one in the theater, and just the night before, I had watched a movie called Patty Cakes, which is kind of like 8 Mile, but with a woman.
Ah! All right. Sorry. No, keep going.
Meaning like she's into like rap battling and stuff like that.
All right.
And it was also about like a young woman and her relationship with her mother and rap battling. And it's a really good movie. Like, it's a good movie. It stars this woman. Her name is Danielle McDonald. See, I can pronounce that one.
Oh, because she's Irish. Because she's white, you can pronounce it. I see how it is.
The other girl is Irish and white.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
But I can't pronounce her name. She's from Australia, and I totally didn't know it. Like, because it's set in New Jersey, and she's got the New Jersey accent, and it seemed very authentic to me. But it's a really good movie, and it's also about like this relationship with her mother. And it was so cool to see like these two movies kind of back to back with these two very different stories about daughters and mothers. And it's just one of those things about movies that I super love, is that there are just so many different stories out there.
Cool.
And that you could take something that's kind of the bones, like we all have mothers in theory, and you could tell these very different stories.
Right.
But
yeah.
Patty Cakes is streaming right now on like Amazon stuff. I think for rent, though. You have to rent it. And then Lady Bird is playing in theaters now, and I think it's going to go wide. And I mean, everyone who sees it super loves it. It's a really, really, really good movie. Like, It's one of my favorite movies this year for sure.
I've heard that I really have heard that from several people. So, and I think we're going to need to, and I'm starting to do this, is we're going to start to need to watch, these big dramas and stuff coming out because of the Oscars coming up. And I've heard
and this one is just
about Lady Bird.
Yeah, this is not like one of those movies. It's not like, oh, here's an Oscar movie. It's just a really good.
Oh, then forget it.
It's a really good movie.
Cool.
I was so glad I saw it.
Cool. I'm excited, but I will admit I got distracted by something in your mini review right here. So, if Sacramento is the Midwest of California, what does that make like the Merced Modesto area? Is that like the south of California?
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
what does that make like Chico and above Sacramento? What is that? What states do those correspond to?
I don't know.
Probably
I
like
guess we're gonna have to make a whole map now.
Wyoming. Because it's funny. There's actually Paramount back in the 30s, I think. I think it's Paramount. They made a map of California for location scouts, where they would say if you're shooting a movie that takes place in the Alps, shoot it in this part of the Sierra. If you're shooting a movie that takes place in the Old West, you shoot it here. If you're shooting a movie that takes place in Europe, shoot it here. That's actually, or if you're shooting some, places in the South, that's actually how some of Sherwood Forest and Gone with the Wind got shot in Chico. So
Is this an actual like map of the United States that you could print out and frame and hang on your wall?
no, it's a map of California with a bunch of like. It was kind of well done, artistically done, but it's a map of California with essentially geographical descriptions of, there are parts where it says if you need to shoot a movie that supposedly takes place in Africa, shoot it in, like Bakersfield or whatever. Not really, but it was something like that. It was like there's all these different geographic formations or geological formations and vegetative formations in California that can stand in for all these other places on Earth, which is very interesting. So yeah, I do know,
which is very interesting. So you say.
The last thing I'm going to say is I don't know exactly where the South and the upper Midwest or whatever those parts of California are. I do know where the Mississippi of California is, and that is very close to Paradise, California, where I live. It's up the ridge. Once you get into the Magalia and you go further east, that is...
Well, what you don't want is to be in the Alabama of California.
Oh, my God.
It is not safe there.
Where is the Alabama of California?
I don't know.
Would that be like Alturas?
I just wanted to bag on Alabama,
Would that be, or like
which is clearly the new Florida.
Dunsmuir? Well, it's funny. You said that. You said that on Facebook, and I can't believe I'm stepping in to defend Florida. But
you know what? There are nice people who live in Florida, and I feel bad bagging on it. But
that's right. The men that went to the moon left from Florida. Alabama is never gonna have anything on that. Sorry. Anyway, point is, Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes. Point is, what's your next one?
I got two that I like. One that I really like that I'm not sure a movie has been more poorly named and more underserved by its marketing since maybe Tom Cruise's Edge of Tomorrow or Live, Die, Repeat or whatever the hell that movie was called. That was a great movie that kind of had an awful title, not fantastic previews, and kind of sank a little bit, but it's a great movie. Anyway, first off, Murder on the Orient Express. Kenneth Branagh directed, stars in as Hercule Poirot, the greatest detective in a lot of Agatha Christie stories. If you've never read the book, which I hadn't, if you've never seen the movie, which I hadn't, Murder on the Orient Express is just a fun, old-fashioned detective story that I really liked.
Okay, I'll have to go see it.
Unless you know the ending, and I was raving about it to somebody who had read the book and seen the movie, and it was just like, yeah, he knows, and I don't know what it would be like to experience this movie.
So the ending of this is the same is in the book?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think it's pretty close.
Okay. Well, my husband has read the book and seen the movies and stuff, and I have not. So
interesting.
He kind of expressed interest in seeing it, and it sounds like you enjoyed it. So maybe I'll try to put it on the list.
Yes, but another movie that you should put on the list that is really good, and I'm truly baffled at how this movie has gotten lost. And this is one of those movies that I complain about, oh, they don't really have movies about regular people, like working class people doing working class jobs and all this stuff. Only the Brave, directed by Joseph Kosinski, starring Josh Brolin, Miles Teller, Jeff Bridges, Jennifer Connelly, is about firefighters, wildfire firefighters, and it is just really good. A really solid movie.
I saw a preview for this.
And
in front of something else. You're right. The name does it no favors.
The name makes it sound like a direct-to-video
Steven Seagal
movie from the late 90s.
Yeah.
This movie would have starred Mark Singer if it had come out in the 80s. It's that kind of movie. I don't know if you know who Mark Singer is. Look it up. This is Only the Brave.
And then watch Beastmaster.
That's right. But it's an awful title put on just a really good, solid movie. It's not really like Hell or High Water in any way, and this is actually based on a true story, so I don't want to spoil it. But it has that feeling of just
that is so
small town people doing small town things. Actually,
that is so funny that you brought up Hell or High Water, because I actually thought about that movie so much when I watched Patty Cakes and Lady Bird, because it's the same kind of thing where they're showing like regular people
right
trying to like make a living, and they're not like wacky like weirdos or and like, oh, they're so comically poor like
right.
Like it's about like real struggles with money and things like that I was like, kind of reminded me of Hell or High Water. And
right
there you go. You bring it up again.
And it's got, but it's also got moments where, all right, their day job is going to fight huge, raging, crazy forest fires. So it's good in that sense. But yeah, and wow, now that I'm looking at it, it's directed by the guy that directed Tron, Legacy, and Oblivion with Tom Cruise, which is, you would not think those movies lead up to this movie, but actually it does. This is a really good movie, really understated, really. Oh, that's interesting.
Okay,
so,
I'll put that one on the list too.
When I look at people who liked this, also liked on Amazon, it also mentions Murder on the Orient Express and Marshall, which are two other movies that I have talked about. So,
well,
wow.
There you
go. Amazon is really zeroing in on my
that's
history or something.
Not creepy.
I don't know. Point is, is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
I have one more.
All right.
Just one more. I have finished Alias Grace on Netflix, and it's really, really good. It is 6 parts. You could get through it super fast. It's really good. It's based on the novel by Margaret Atwood, who did The Handmaid's Tale, and it's based on the true story about an Irish immigrant who's a servant in 1843, and she's convicted of murdering her employer and his housekeeper, who was also his lover. Wow. And it's kind of a, did she really do it? Was she crazy when she did it? And a lot of it's told in flashbacks. She kind of talks to a doctor, and he's trying to like figure her out, and it's really good. It's just so good. And the woman who plays Grace is named Sarah Gadon, and I'd never seen her before, but I guess she's in 11/22/63. I think you watched that.
I did.
And she's really, really great in this. And the series is adapted by Sarah Polley, who is an awesome writer, director herself. And it's directed by Mary Herron, who did like American Psycho and I Shot Andy Warhol. She directs all 6 parts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's super good.
Cool. I will put it on the list.
You should put it on the list.
Let's see. What was I going to say? I can't
also,
remember.
I could never, ever, I would have never been able to make it like immigrating from another country to here. Like, it's so awful.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
They show him like coming over on the boat, and I was like, I would have thrown up until my body went inside out. Like it's so bleh.
No, it's awful. You know, we've talked about this a couple times or mentioned it a couple times on the show. My wife was in a car wreck. And then earlier this week, we were talking about all the different events we've had, and she would have been dead like 3 or 4 times over. My whole family would have been dead if any of my life had happened before 1970, which is awful.
Yeah.
So anyway. Luckily, I was born in 71.
Phew. Anyway, it's a very good show. I highly recommend it, and I think the woman who stars in it is going to be like a big star. She's really great.
Cool.
And that's all I have on my list.
All right. Well, that's it for us. No Star Trek until, well, actually, that's not exactly true. I was going to say no Star Trek until January, but sometime in December, we are going to have Jeff Bond on to talk about his book, The Art of Star Trek, The Kelvin Timeline. We're also going to have Peter Brown to talk about Star Trek Discovery, because we haven't talked about Star Trek Discovery enough.
Well, actually, that'll be good because I haven't got to talk about it very much. So.
Excellent. Yes, we're going to be doing that. Next week, we are going to be talking about the new Pixar movie, Coco,
Yay!
With possibly David Tracy, if
my better half.
I allow him on the show. And my good friend and animation expert, the Emmy-winning Juan Uriarte.
Yes.
Is returning to the show. I'm just kidding. David, I guess, could be on the show.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it is. It's very nice of me.
If he will grace us with his presence.
That's true. Maybe I've made one too many jokes like that, and he's not going to want to be on the show.
No thanks.
No, I have been kicked around enough. Sorry. Anyway, point is, that's all we have for our show. Thank you for listening. Sonia Mansfield, is there anything else that you would like to say before we say goodbye?
I just want to say Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everyone else. And goodbye.
Bye!
The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can find Chris at Jet Jurgens and Sonia at The Sonia Show. You can read about Sonia's random adventures at thesoniashow.com and track the slow and creeping progress of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjurgens.com. You can find out more about the Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com. While you're over there, you can support us by giving us a review on iTunes. We have a handy-dandy iTunes link to whisk you right back to 2007, where you can leave your review and 5-star rating in iTunes. We'd do it for your podcast. Want to dork out even more? Well, you can sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get all the headlines we use as fuel for the show. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening.